British versus American grocery prices 2025. Now, I have been really curious about this because I watched a video similar to this, but the prices were from a few years back, and the differences really surprised me. There were certain things that I thought the US would for sure be cheaper than the UK at, but it wasn't the case. Like meat, for example, like I thought the US, because it produces so much beef, surely the beef would be cheaper, but no, it wasn't the case. So I'm eager to see if like now, with a bit of time and more recent prices, has the gap gotten bigger in terms of the price differences, or is it a lot closer now?
Hey y'all!
We're Zach and Annie, a Scotsman and American who met while working as camp counselors.
Then we fell in love, started a family,
And now, after 15 years of living across the US, we recently uprooted our entire lives to move from California to Bonnie, Scotland.
Wow, that temperature difference will be humongous. Humongous.
Hi everyone, welcome back.
Today we're going grocery shopping. And we know these days there's 100 variations of every single thing in the grocery store. But don't worry, Annie's done all the maths for you. She's compared dollars to pounds and all the different weight categories and volume categories there are.
Yes.
So buckle in.
And the other thing we wanted to make sure that we mentioned is that we're choosing two stores. We're doing Tesco in Scotland, specifically the East Lothian area, versus Safeway in Northern California. And they were both stores that are outside of big cities in a small town. And we feel like the food's pretty similar. So if we used a store brand product in Tesco, then we use the same type of store brand product in Safeway.
Cool, so we're doing almost like for like, or as close to like for like as possible.
So we just wanted to make it as fair as possible, and let's get into that a little bit more.
All right. But before we go into the maths lesson, we did want to highlight some pretty big differences that we noticed between the food shops here and the food shops in the US.
I think we should start with how things are laid out. Well, first off, before even that, the store sizes are just quite different.
Everything's bigger in the US.
You have more people and you have more space, so of course stores are generally larger, and we notice that even down to aisle sizes.
Yes.
And then from
the options, like when I went to the Walmart in Fresno, like you literally had at least 50 different types of ice cream that you could buy, like the pint cups. Here, I'm not even joking, you might see like 10 to 15, maybe.
At that point, the way that everything's put in the grocery store, laid out, is that the frozen foods and the refrigerated sections in the US are typically on the perimeter of the stores.
Whereas in the UK, a lot of those refrigerated sections or frozen sections are
by themselves.
down in the aisles, kind of in the middle of the store, which was a slight difference for us.
And talking about refrigerated, eggs.
Yes.
Eggs are not refrigerated in the UK, but they are in the US.
Something Annie thought was crazy for when we
I wonder why that is. Why do American, like, why? Why? Because
first met, like, why are your eggs not in the fridge? Like, why are yours in the fridge? So
Exactly. And then that brings us to the self-scanners at Tesco.
Annie loves this thing.
My favorite thing ever invented. You do not have those in Safeway in California. And I don't know if you have them in grocery stores in the US really
it'd be
much at
interesting
all.
to see where else it is. So let us know, because it came out a while back, then disappeared. Now it's back, and we love it. So
it's just so convenient. It saves so much time.
And finally, the measurements are different. So in the US, you usually have pounds and gallons and ounces, whereas in the UK, you're working with grams and liters.
pints. We got a whole smorgasbord of measurements.
Slightly different, which made doing the math so much fun for me. I just love that part. Conversion.
The weird thing is she does like math problems. So if you go on Google, a quick 30-second search will show you that UK grocery prices are about 30 to 33% lower than US prices.
Wow. 33%. That's crazy.
So we're going to give up-to-date numbers. It's November 2024.
Okay, so this is near the end of last year. I mean, it's not far away. Only 4 months. So yeah, it should be fine.
These prices yesterday, so it's as fresh as we can get them to you. And let's see how things stack up.
So it's quite rainy today, but we decided to take a walk into town, go to Tesco, and we're gonna get some groceries. So the first item on our shopping list was strawberries. And as you can see here, the UK's price for strawberries for 227 grams was £2.30. And the US equivalent was £1.93.
Oh, so the US is slightly cheaper here. Okay.
So the US slightly won out here with a price 16% cheaper than that in the UK.
Okay.
So this brings us to grapes. In the UK, it's £1.80 for 500 grams, and the equivalent in the US is £2.99.
Oh, I mean, all of those gains erased. That's like a 50% price increase, more than 50.
So for grapes, the UK is 40% cheaper.
Okay.
For
Maybe
pink
not.
lady apples, in the UK, they are £4.20 per kilogram.
Okay.
And in the US, the equivalent is £4.25. And so this one, the UK wins with a price that's 1% cheaper. Next up, we have
minimal.
bananas. In the UK, bananas cost about 90 pence per kilogram. And in the US, they are £1.53 per kilogram.
That's nuts, though. I thought the US would produce so many bananas. Like, why are they so much more expensive?
Making the UK come in 41% cheaper.
So for romaine lettuce in the UK, you're looking at 57.5 pence each. And in the US, that's going to be £1.03 each, which means the UK is 44% cheaper.
Some pretty big differences so far.
Now we have an iceberg lettuce head. In the UK, they are 89 pence each. And in the US, they're about £2.32 each. So the UK's price is 62% cheaper. You can pick yourself up an avocado for 75 pence in the UK, whereas in the US, it's going to be about £1.56.
Good Lord. I mean, I know that the US, the wages you guys make are better than the UK for sure. For sure. You guys make much better money than we do. But I'm shocked at these prices so far. Hopefully the US is going to have some big wins coming up soon.
So that brings us to the UK of having an avocado priced 52% cheaper. As far as onions go, you can pick one up for about 33 pence each.
Jeez.
And in the US, it's going to be about £1.15 each. So the UK's price is 71% cheaper.
So for 220 grams of green beans in the UK, you're looking at 85 pence. And in the US, it's going to be £1.12.
And believe it or not, Tesco's is like one of the more expensive stores. Like you've got Asda and Aldi and Lidl that are just way cheaper than Tesco. So the price differences could even be a lot bigger. But is Safeway like one of the cheapest stores in or more expensive stores in California? Or I suppose they did say it was like for like, so.
Making the UK 24% cheaper.
Next up, we have zucchini, otherwise known as courgettes. And in the UK, you can get a kilogram of courgette for £2.58. Whereas in the US, it's going to run you £5.09. So the UK is 49% cheaper here.
Okay, and a strong staple for any Scottish diet, the mighty potato.
Mighty.
It's going to be 75 pence per kilogram in the
But the US produces so many potatoes. I thought like Idaho would like produce like just a gargantuan amount of potatoes. Like, why are they so pricey? Americans watching this, how are you guys doing with the cost of living over there? Like, have you noticed grocery prices have gone up sharply, or have they always been sort of this price?
UK and £2.99 per kilogram in the US, which means the UK is 75% cheaper.
This was a close one, baby carrots. In the US, they're £1.09 for 320 grams. And for that same amount in the UK, you have £1.10. So this is less than 1% cheaper in the US.
Still, a win is a win. A win is a win.
So for bell peppers in the UK, you're looking at 55 pence each. And in the US, it's going to be £1.55 each.
Good Lord.
Making the UK 65% cheaper.
Okay, so when it comes to vegetables, the UK definitely beats the US in terms of pricing. But maybe when it comes to protein, the US, I mean, surely the US will beat the UK in terms of protein prices because you guys produce so much of it domestically. Like, you guys produce so much beef and chicken. Like, I think your chicken will be cheaper.
So this one actually surprised me. Milk in the US is £1 9 pence for 1.136 liters, and the equivalent in the UK is £1 20 pence. So the US actually had the cheaper price by 9%.
This makes sense though because of the cattle, the amount of cattle in the US. So yeah, it makes sense that your milk would be cheaper.
Okay, on to some more dairy here, and we're looking at butter. In the UK for 200 grams, it's going to be £2 and 15 pence. In the US, it's going to be £2 and 4 pence, making
Sounds
the US
about right.
5% cheaper.
With mild cheddar cheese slices, the UK was £2.65 pence for 250 grams, and the US for the same amount was £3.82 pence. So in this case, the UK was 31% cheaper.
Okay, so for grated cheese in the UK, 250 grams is going to be £2 and 55 pence. And in the US, that's going to be £3 and 65 pence, making the UK 30% cheaper.
Looking at your vanilla yogurt, we have a price of £1.93 pence per 450 grams in the US. And then in the UK, the same was £2 25 pence.
Okay.
So this time, the US came in 14% cheaper.
It seems like the running average is about 25%, or maybe it's close to 30% of an increase in price for the US, which does match with what they showed on Google before.
Okay, onto some sliced ham here. In the UK, for 120 grams, you're looking at £3 and 25 pence. In the US, that's going to be £1 and 23 pence, making the US 62% cheaper.
Okay.
With minced meat or ground beef, what we call it in the US, you're going to pay £3 40 pence for 500 grams in the UK. And then in the US, the same will cost you £6 84 pence.
This doesn't make any sense. You guys have so much beef.
The UK is 50% cheaper here.
Now this is a surprising one because we thought chicken in the US was expensive, but in the UK, 950 grams is going to cost you £6 and 25 pence. And in the US, that's going to be £4 and 86 pence, making the US 22% cheaper.
I thought so. You guys produce a hell of a lot of chicken.
This brings us to one of my favorite, bacon. And although we don't have the exact same bacon in both countries, I'm still going to compare the different variants because everyone loves bacon and I want to be able to see how much we're paying. So for your UK standard bacon, you're paying £1 89 pence per 300 grams.
My God.
And in the US, when you think of our bacon, it's £5 47 pence per 300 grams. So this one, the UK has a price that's 65% cheaper.
Salmon is something our kids love to eat, so this was a nice one. In the UK, 520 grams is £9.70, and in the US, it's going to be £10 and 68 pence, making the UK 9% cheaper.
So on the protein, I feel like the US is more expensive also as a whole. The chicken was quite a bit cheaper, but everything else, the ham was also cheaper in the US, but yeah, everything else was, quite a big difference. The bacon one was shocking, and the ground beef too.
Okay, on to garlic bread. In the UK, 205 grams will be £1, and in the US, that's going to be £2 and 51 pence, making the UK 60% cheaper.
Now, if you have kids, you're likely buying chicken nuggets. And there's a big difference with this one. In the UK, you can buy chicken nuggets for £5 25 pence per 697 grams, whereas in the US, that's going to run you £11 22 pence, making the price in the UK 53% cheaper. So I wanted to do some names that were both in the US and the UK, and Tropicana was one of those brands that I could find. So with orange juice, you are paying £3 25 pence per 1.5 liters in the UK, whereas that same brand in the US is going to run you £3 82 pence. So the UK's price for Tropicana is 15% cheaper.
It's again surprising because Florida has so many oranges or produces so many oranges. Like, I would have thought that the stuff that you guys make domestically, like in huge volumes, like oranges, beef, like I would have thought you'd have really, really good pricing for that. But maybe it's because you export a lot of it, maybe.
With rice, in the UK, you're looking at £1 18 pence per kilogram. And in the US, it's going to be £2 and 13 pence, making the UK 45% cheaper.
In a previous video, we talked about more artisan type breads or sourdough, but here's your standard white bread. And in the UK...
Oh my God. This is insane. £3.46 for a loaf of bread? No way.
You're going to be paying 74 pence per 800 grams, whereas in the US, for that same equivalent, you'll be paying £3.46.
So this can't be right. How much are you guys, any Americans watching this, how much, if you want a standard loaf of white bread, nothing fancy, just standard sliced white bread, how much are you paying for that loaf? Because there's no way. So this is about $4.50. Are you guys paying $4.50 for a loaf of bread? Really? Last time I bought a loaf of bread, it was about £1, and that was a nice loaf of bread too. That was like a Tesco's finest seeded loaf of bread.
So bread in the UK is 79% cheaper.
Okay, so here's some similar crisps as well. In the UK, 100 grams is going to be £1.33. And in the US, that's going to be £2.04, making the UK 35% cheaper. Here's a nice direct comparison for Frosties. In the UK, it's 43 pence per 100 grams. In the US, that's 96 pence per 100 grams, making the UK 55% cheaper.
This is another one that was quite surprising to me. I didn't think spaghetti could be too expensive, but apparently it is. In the UK, it cost £1.29 per kilogram, where in the US, it's £3.89 per kilogram. So the UK's price is 76% cheaper.
Okay, so for a dozen eggs in the UK, it's going to cost you £3.15. In the US, that's going to cost £4.63, making the UK 32% cheaper.
I don't understand that, because you guys' chicken was cheaper, which to me indicates that there's a large amount of chickens. So why are eggs more expensive? Like, I don't get that one. Do you see what I mean? Like, you would think more chickens equals more eggs.
This one's a bit of a killer. In the UK, you can get a raspberry jam
Bro!
for 89 pence per 454 grams, whereas in the US, that same amount is going to be £3.78. And so the UK's price is 76% cheaper.
Okay, so for sugar, in the UK, it's going to be £2.15 for 2 kilograms. In the US, it's going to be £4.66 for 2 kilograms, making the UK 54% cheaper. Okay, so for flour, in the UK, 1.5 kilograms will cost you 79 pence. In the US, it's going to be £2.44, making the UK 68% cheaper.
Tea in the UK is cheaper. You can get a box of 40 for £2.90 in the UK, whereas in the US, it's going to run you £3.70. And so the overall price is 22% cheaper in the UK.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, because I guess you guys don't drink as much tea, so you guys, the retailers aren't importing as much of it. So, like, usually you get good deals on higher volume, right?
Next up, we have my favorite, coffee. And in the US, it's going to be £4.11 for about 200 grams. And in the UK, that same amount is going to be £2.25. So the price in the UK is 45% cheaper.
Wow.
This one we absolutely hated buying in the US, because every single time we felt like we were getting absolutely robbed. And you can see here, we were. So for 750 grams of granola in the UK, it's going to run you £3.
Oh my.
60 pence, and that same amount in the US will be £6.82. So it's 47% cheaper in the UK. Now here's a fun one. I didn't think you'd have this brand over here, but this barbecue sauce we actually really love in our house.
Same. This goes so well with ribs. Oh my God.
And in the US, the Sweet Baby Ray's is £2.71 per bottle. And in the UK, that same one is £3.70. And so it's 27% cheaper in the United States.
All right, well, this is actually the third time I've been to Tesco today, but this was for the big shop. A lot of stuff we normally get. And yeah, now we have got to battle the weather to get home, but...
Maybe we'll do a Costco remix as well.
I love Costco, so...
Because we didn't get some of the meats, because that's what we typically do at Costco, but we'll do another video in the future with all that.
Yeah. So in the end, what's the verdict?
30%.
Taking all those products into consideration and hours of maths by Annie, the verdict is that the UK is 35% cheaper overall than the US.
Wow. Wow, man. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does track with what we saw earlier, but still, like some of the price differences were really shocking. But I guess, the salaries you guys make largely more than we do. Not in every case, but I'd say in most cases, you guys make quite a bit more. But I suppose you're paying quite a bit more for groceries too. You're paying less for petrol, for gasoline. Housing is kind of difficult, depends where you are. Very interesting. It gives me a lot of food for thought because obviously I'm thinking about maybe moving to the States, like because of what you can buy in Texas, but it's making me, there's a lot more that goes into it, because the cost of living, like, let me know the cost of living where you are in America, like, what's it like? Have you noticed it getting a lot higher these days? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.